Buckley laid his head on the thunder egg. It surely was the same stone that Hank Cullen had taken from him over 2 weeks ago. He felt of it and turned it over, his mind a confused whirl of troubled thoughts. Why was the thunder egg in the storeroom? Had Hank brought it for the program? And he must have. Why hadn't it been on the platform? Who had put it here and why? Most importantly, what could he do with it? Bickley sat down and took his treasure in his lap. There was ordinarily nothing in the storeroom but brooms and dustpans and a few window shades and rags that Miss Kitty used for dusting the desks. There was no outside door. The only door out of the room opened into the main schoolroom right behind the teacher's desk. The other children would go off the platform down the steps that led directly into the audience. But the ones who spoke later, the big boys and girls, would come through this room as an exit. Also, most of the scenery used in the pantomime would have to be dragged in here after the next recitation and song. To leave the stone where he'd found it and go out the door into the audience was unthinkable. Bickley pushed the thunder egg back into a corner as far as possible and stood squarely in front of it while the big boys dragged in the boxes and cardboard props from the platform and set them against the back wall. Whenever anyone spoke to him or looked at him, he fooled around with the lantern, turning the flame up or down. Finally, Miss Kitty found him there. "What are you doing in here?" she asked him. "You did very well, Bicknell. We're very proud of you. You mustn't be embarrassed. Come out." "It's not that." Bickley looked down at his feet. How did this stone get here?" "Oh, that," Miss Kitty laughed. "Mr. Collins brought it along with all the other stones from his place, but it just didn't look like a real stone to me, more like a big egg. I didn't think it looked very good with the Plymouth Rock, so I pushed it in here. Heavy, isn't it?" "I think I'll stay in here a while," Bickley told her. He sat down on one of the wooden boxes that formed the rock. "My tummy feels funny." "Ah, too much excitement," the teacher said. "I'll get you a drink." But the drink didn't help any, and of course Miss Kitty had to go on with the program. Bickley knew within an hour he was going to have to face Hank Collins and demand the right to keep his thunder egg. He also knew he must be certain what he would certainly do, and the feeling in his stomach surprised and frightened him. "Program's too much for you?" Niels Whitney asked as he came in after his song. Bickley didn't answer. "Bick's got a stomach ache," one of the girls giggled. Despite his dread and his sick feeling, the time hurried by, and Bickley, from his corner of the closet, heard a final number of the program, a good night song. Now it was almost time. Hank would come in here for the stones. The boys had brought all of the others on the platform in here, and Hank would come to gather them up. Yes, he'd be here any minute now. But it wasn't Hank, but rather Ralph, the soldier, and Red Hog Smith, who came looking for Bickley. "You look kind of peaked, Bickley. What's wrong?" Red Hog took him by the shoulder. "Your mother was called out right after your piece, and she told me to bring you boys home. I suppose someone's sick and they called her to nurse," Bickley said. "Why are you hiding here?" Ralph smiled down at him. "You did fine. You should be out there and be letting people shake your hands." "The thunder egg," Bickley spoke in a low voice. "The thunder egg." "What do you mean?" Ralph said, looking puzzled. He pointed to the corner under the lantern where the egg-shaped stone sat. "It's the stone we dug out of our cellar. Don't you remember? The one Uncle Dirk told you about." The soldier exclaimed in surprise as his eyes darted towards the stone. "Ain't that the stone I saw at your place?" Red Hog said, picking up the thunder egg with his big hands. He turned it over and over. "Fine stone, I'd say. How'd it come to be here? Hank Collins took it away from us." The door swung open. Miss Kitty came in. Hank Collins followed. "Well, I do appreciate you going to all that trouble, Mr. Collins," she was saying. "I think the stones looked very nice, and we really need them. Don't you think?" "Glad to help you, ma'am," Hank said, his crackling smile. "I last like to be good to folks." Then his eyes fell on Bickley. He had taken the thunder egg from Red Hog and was hugging it tight in his arms. "Now, Bick, that stone's a bit too heavy for a young feller like you." He reached for it. Bickley backed away. "Don't touch the stone, Hank Collins," he said. Bickley could hardly believe it was his own voice. It sounded like John talking. "Don't take my stone again." Bickley stood between Red Hog Smith and Hank. "Well, do tell," Hank grinned, and his mouth lost for a moment its particular sucking shape. That here stone's mine, ain't it, Miss Kitty? I brought it here for your program, didn't I? He stood waiting for her to answer. Miss Kitty looked from Bickley to Hank and then to Red Hog and the strange soldier in the blue coat. Yes, Mr. Collins, she said, gasping a little. Yes, it came from your place. I know it did. Why do you claim it, Bignalt? He took it, Bickley raised his voice. He stole it. Tommy and I... Now look here, Red Hog glowered at Hank. This stone belongs to Bick and Tom. I saw it at their place last summer. They dug it up. Right there in their cellar. How do you think it's yours? Hank opened his mouth to answer, but Ralph spoke. Is this stone of some value? He asked. Maybe, maybe not, Hank said, his sharp blue eyes on the soldier. None of your put in. The man's got his rights, and I'm going to protect my property. He tried to twist the stone from Bickley's hands. The boy resisted, and the stone, being rather smooth and round, was hard to hold. It fell between them, and Hank screamed in rage and pain. Oaths and cursing filled the air, and the angry farmer sat down on one of the wooden boxes to nurse his hurt foot. Now I'll have you sent to reform school, you little wildcat, he yelled at Bickley. Take your shoe off, Ralph said kindly. Let's see how badly your foot is hurt. That stone is rather heavy. He unlaced Hank's big shoe and gently pulled it off. Hank eased the dirty sock off, and then they saw the stone had fallen on his big toe and given it quite a bruise. You'll probably lose your toenail, Ralph said. Too bad. Hank shook his finger at Bickley. I'll teach you how to behave, you impudent youngster. Now, wait a minute, Ralph said. He laid his hand on Hank's shoulder. Just how did you come by this stone? None of your business, Hank glared at Ralph. How about you getting out of here and letting me handle this myself? We don't like strangers meddling. Then Red Hog picked up the stone from the floor where it had fallen. He held it in his hands. I'll just keep this here stone till you can prove it belongs to you, Hank, he said. As far as I know, it belongs to Bick. He says you took it from him, and I'm inclined to believe him. That's where stones come from, California. I know stones. Hank's face was purple with anger. And that there's a thunder egg. When it's cut and polished, it might be worth $10, and they owe it to me. His sharp voice had risen to a scream. Bickley looked from one face to another. His heart beat with wild excitement. Miss Kitty had stepped out of the room and closed the door quietly. So quietly the men didn't even hear her. Bickley knew they couldn't hear anything in the way that they were shouting. This is the best way, Mr. Collins, Ralph said. Again, let Mr. Smith keep the stone. You don't want to do any justice to an orphan boy, I'm sure. He patted the old farmer's slumped shoulder. I suggest we take that stone to Marshalltown and have it cut and find out how much it's worth. He looked at Red Hog. What do you say, Mr. Smith? Shall we we could take the cost of cutting and whatever the value is. Fine idea, Red Hog interrupted him. Whatever the stone's worth, you'll get, Hank Collins. But these boys are going to have their stone. Their uncle fetched it clear from California, and he's dead. Red Hog still held the stone in his hands. His blue eyes flashed in the lantern light, and his big face was very red. Come on, Bick, we're going home. Mr. Collins, Ralph called back to him. If you want to be at Marshalltown at 11 o'clock tomorrow, you'll be able to see the stone cut, and you'll get what we promised. Otherwise, you'll never see it again. The crowd still stood around the door of the Ferguson schoolhouse, talking and laughing and making such a racket that Bickley was sure none of them had overheard the loud noises from the back storeroom. He looked at Tommy and found him with Pete and Niels. They all followed Red Hog to the bobsled. He laid the thunder egg underneath a straw, and then Tommy saw the stone. Bickley, he cried in delight. It's back! The thunderstone! The boys snuggled under the buffalo rug and held the stone between them. Ralph got in beside them. That man has done wrong, the soldier told Bickley. He's fighting a bad conscience. I don't think he'll make us any more trouble. At home, the boys got out. They hesitated a moment. Bickley wanted to say more than anything to take the thunder egg out and carry it into the house. But Red Hog spoke up. I'll just take your stone home with me, he said. I'll have it there in Marshalltown tomorrow, and if you boys want to go with me, I'll take you. Then he added with a voice full of unexpected kindness. I know you fellows would like to have the stone, but I don't trust that Hank. I wouldn't put anything past that sniffling rabbit. Mr. Smith is right, Ralph assured them. And the two men drove away into the night. Mom was not home, but John had just come in. He had taken her to spend the night with a sick woman who a couple miles away. John, John, Bickley cried in the burst of great joy. Oh, John, the Thunder Egg's back. Back? He looked from one to the other. Where is it? Oh, Red Hog has it. We're going into Marshalltown tomorrow to have it cut. Wait a minute, John said as he sat down by the fire, and Bickley told the whole story of his plan and how it succeeded. The boys sat in the kitchen, around the kitchen stove until very late. Then John ordered them to bed. We ought to be fresh and ready for Marshalltown tomorrow, he said. I wouldn't miss that for anything. Bickley slept well that night, so well that when he saw a figure groping around the floor in the faint moonlight, he thought it was only a dream. End of chapter 12.